So when Annie and I began planning this service in the fall, we were anticipating that in February, the cold and the snow would still be lingering, and that we'd all be eager for the change of season from winter to spring. Turns out we were right. I don't know about you, but there's plenty of snow where I am. It's still a little chilly. Anyway, the transient nature of weather and seasons was the inspiration for today's theme of embracing life's changing seasons, reflections on impermanence. We will open today's service with an invocation prayer and blessing. Great Spirit, in whom we live and move and have our being, thank you for joining us today as we connect with one another and reflect upon the changing and impermanent seasons of our lives. Let us allow the gentle arising and falling away of all things, and to be grateful for the gifts in each unfolding moment. Open our minds to receive wisdom, and open our hearts to receive love. Help us to know that even in these last weeks of winter, it is possible to find invincible spring. Amen. So be it.
I'm going to read from the book of Ecclesiastes. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace.
Our next reading this morning is excerpted from chapter 10 of When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. Impermanence is the goodness of reality. Just as the four seasons are in continual flux, winter changing to spring, to summer, to autumn. Just as day becomes night, light becoming dark, becoming light again. In the same way, everything is constantly evolving. Impermanence is the essence of everything. It is babies becoming children, then teenagers, then adults, then old people, and somewhere along the way, dropping dead. Impermanence is meeting and parting. It's falling in love and falling out of love. Impermanence is bittersweet, like buying a new shirt and many years later, finding it as part of a patchwork quilt. We people have no respect for impermanence. We take no delight in it. In fact, we despair of it. We regard it as pain. We try to resist it by making things that will last forever, we say. Things that we don't have to wash, things that we don't have to iron. Somehow, in the process of trying to deny that things are always changing, we lose our sense of the sacredness of life. We tend to forget that we are part of the natural scheme of things. Impermanence is a principle of harmony. When we don't struggle against it, we are in harmony with reality. Many cultures celebrate this connectedness. There are ceremonies marking all the transitions of life from birth to death, as well as meetings and partings, going into battle, losing the battle, and winning the battle. We too could acknowledge, respect, and celebrate impermanence. So how do we celebrate impermanence? When impermanence presents itself in our lives, we can recognize it as impermanence. We don't have to look for opportunities to do this. When your pen runs out of ink in the middle of writing an important letter, recognize it as impermanence, part of the whole cycle of life. When someone's born, recognize it as impermanence. When someone dies, recognize it as impermanence. When your car gets stolen, recognize it as impermanence. When you fall in love, recognize it as impermanence and let that intensify the preciousness. When a relationship ends, recognize it as impermanence. There are countless examples of impermanence in our lives every day, from the moment we wake up until we fall asleep, and even while we're dreaming, all the time. This is a 24-hour-a-day practice. Recognize impermanence as impermanence. So many of you may know that Pema Chodron is a Tibetan Buddhist nun. And When Things Fall Apart is a book I stumbled upon in a bookstore in 2002 when, well, things in my life were falling apart. This is that very book that I found back then. What I had hoped would be permanent was a love relationship, but it was crumbling before my eyes. Even though I had not had any significant encounter with Buddhism before that time, I was drawn like a magnet to the title, When Things Fall Apart. I bought the book and read it eagerly, taking notes and journaling about the ideas in it. Pema's words gave me a sense of peace, knowing I was and am connected to all of humanity in my loss. Impermanence is everywhere and affects us all. So let's fast forward to 2009. I took Pema's book with me on a personal retreat, another time in my life when I was facing a different sort of ending. And I found my thick stack of notes wedged into the book, which surprised me because I had forgotten all about them. After rereading those notes, I decided I wanted to actively explore Buddhism. Within weeks after retreat, I had joined a local Zen Buddhist Sangha, of which my friend was a co-founder, and I attended weekly sessions for sitting meditation and Dharma talks. I also began attending 2 to 3 meditation retreats each year. And in 2012, I made a formal commitment to my Zen path, all because of Pema Chodron's book. From Pema and other Buddhist and Zen teachers, I've learned some practices that have supported equanimity in the face of impermanence and change. I offer these practices to you today in the hopes they might shine the light in some way on your spiritual path. I will call these practices the 3 N's. So, one moment here while I manage technology. All right. The first N is noticing. What is changing for you? Take a moment and bring to mind a situation in your own life. You might think of what is changing as either undesirable or desirable. When impermanence shows up, simply notice how you respond to it. Are you resistant? Angry? Curious? Relieved? Sad? Is your response habitual, a consistent pattern of behavior? Or is it fresh and new? Can you allow yourself to pause and breathe into your noticing? As you pause and breathe, you might try moving into the second N. Neither for nor against. This is a practice I learned from one of my primary Zen teachers. How does it feel to make friends with what is happening and allow yourself to not judge any part of it as good or bad? In my own example of having the love relationship come to an end, how does it feel to be neither for nor against that ending? And how does it feel to be neither for nor against my own response of grief to that situation? In applying this practice, I experience a softness and a gentleness that creates some space in which compassion and acceptance arise. The third N is about opening to possibility. You never know what's going to happen next. Perhaps this practice might open curiosity about what might follow or what silver linings might be revealed. I'd like to illustrate this third never know practice with some photos. So here's a photo I took on a recent winter evening. This is from my backyard at dusk. It had been quite a dark and gloomy day, and my mood reflected that atmosphere. I stood outside, breathing fresh air, and suddenly things began to shift. 3 minutes later, I took a photo from the exact same spot. I was filled with joy at the emergence of this magnificent sky. You just never know what's around the corner. I will close with a story from ancient China that brings the 3 N's to life. There was a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbor remarked on the farmer's misfortune, only to be told, "Who knows what is good or bad? The next day, the horse returned, bringing with it a herd of wild horses it had befriended. The neighbor reappeared and congratulated the farmer on his windfall. The farmer responded, "Who knows what is good or bad?" The next day, the farmer's son tried to mount one of the wild horses and fell, breaking his leg. The neighbor lamented the farmer's bad luck, which again elicited the question, "Who knows what is good or bad?" The following day, soldiers came to the farmer's house, recruiting able-bodied young men to fight in the war, and the son was exempted because of his injury. Who knows what is good or bad? I invite you this week to try out one or all of the three N's and experience for yourself what happens.
Thank you, Jill. That was wonderful. We're now going to do a guided meditation. So Jill's going to put up a picture for us to reflect on if you want to look at it, or you can just go into your own place where you go when you meditate. You might want to turn off your screen, your video, stop your video, just to give yourself some space. I will ring the bell when we're done. So let's get started. Let's take a few really good deep breaths in and out. In and out. We're going on a walk in the woods. It's nighttime. It's cloudy. There's more snow coming, unfortunately, but the path is great. It's smooth and easy, and whether you're in your boots or your snowshoes or your cross-country skis, it's comfortable to move in the snow. And so we start to move along the path. It's dark overhead, but the snow lights the way like a tunnel of darkness with light somewhere at the end. Notice the bunny rabbit tracks crossing your path. Other people are out tonight. Oh, the air feels so crisp. But it's cold and you can hear the snow squeaking under your feet. It's a beautiful night to be out. Suddenly the path makes a left turn and you follow it. Still easily slipping through the snow. Still keeping your breath even. Then you get to your favorite overlook bench and sit down underneath a great big tree. And as you look, the valley opens up below you. Long fields, and at the bottom, your little town. The lights are on. It looks cozy and warm and welcoming. Suddenly a huge wind comes up and blows from behind the tree down into the valley. And the snow that comes with it fills the valley, and you can't see your little town anymore. It's gone. For this moment. The snow is getting heavier now, so it's time to leave. You turn and follow the path back. I'll ring my chime when we're back at the parking lot.
Thank you, Annie, for that sensory adventure. Next, I'll read a poem entitled Winter by Mary Baldwin. The wind blows high, the wind blows low. The buried prairies in the snow lie warm and deep. Safe under winter's soft white wing, a little seedling dreams of spring, stirs in its sleep. The wind has gone, and softly come furry friends from drifted home. Hungry, affright, the marks of tiny footsteps show, like frozen music notes on snow. All silent, white.
As part of our practice at my Quaker meeting, we end our meetings with what we call joys and concerns. And this is an opportunity for people to unmute themselves and speak about something that's made them really happy this week, or something that's on their minds where they need prayer. So I ask you to join us. Take some time in between each entry or each person speaks so that we can pray for them too and hold them in the light. I'll start by holding my daughter in Oregon in the light. They've just spent 2 months fostering a 4-pound baby and are just giving it back to the mom. I'm very proud of their efforts.
Hi, I'm Jane, and I have realized how grateful I am for the beauty of the snow. Ordinarily in winter, I am worrying about how I'm going to get from A to B and to Z. And I don't have that worry. I can just sit back and enjoy how beautiful it is. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Terry. I'm very grateful for the theme of today's service. And I think what I'm feeling is both a joy and a concern as my adult kids who have been home, during the last many months start to go back out in the world again. I feel excited for them and hopeful for them. And then also I feel concern for their well-being. So this topic of impermanence and the three N's are really helpful. So I'm very grateful.
Good morning. My name is Kate. I'm in Rhode Island. And what made me very happy this week was to find out that we are able to get our shots, our vaccinations starting on Monday. I'm in the 65 to 74-year-old grouping, and we've waited a long time. And I feel that in a way, this announcement and the joy it's bringing to people, everyone that I know who now is eligible, it reminds me of that little seedling you were talking about, how there's stirring under the ground. And when I walked the other day, the snow had melted around some shrubs that were beginning to pop up. And so I have a feeling that this is a turn. And in view of impermanence, I think, all right, I'm not going to hold on to that, but I will hold on to the joy. So thank you.
I'm Cecilia, and I'm very grateful for this morning. If I didn't know better, I would think that the whole thing had been tailored just for me because it's exactly what I needed to hear today. I'm in the midst of a big downsize and move to a home that will work for my disabled husband. And I'm feeling a great deal of loss and fear about what lies ahead. And between the readings and the walk in the woods, there's a time for everything. And when I try to hold on to what has been, I can't really say yes to the present. I'm kind of blind to the present. And so today has been a seed that's been planted in me. And when I bring warmth to it, it will begin to stir and put down roots. So thank you both very much.
like to hold the people in Texas in the light who are experiencing not the grace of winter, but the strength of winter that demands to be respected. And all those who may not be in Texas, but don't have the security to enjoy winter, as at least I do.
We're now going to move into another piece of music. So those of you who may not have had a moment to speak can do it silently while we enjoy a silent Alleluia. And it's such a beautiful place. Thank you so much for joining Jill and I for our reflections on life in impermanence. It's one of those topics that we understand in our minds, but resist in our hearts. And resistance just makes the loss, the change harder. For myself, I want my flower garden to last all year round, yet I love the winter and try to wish away those hot, humid days in August rather than enjoying each as a gift. I loved reading that section on from Ecclesiastes, that for everything there is an opposite, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together. I love that line. A time to seek and a time to lose. I especially like those verses when you think of the freshness of them. They were written 10,000 years before Christ was born, and they're still wonderful to this day. They still struck a chord in all of us, I think. It reminds me that us earthlings have been longing for meaning, for a sense of spirit, and for a common tender-heartedness among us all for centuries. And regardless of whether we're Buddhist, Christian, or Muslim, or tree huggers, we all recognize a common spark, a need to have meaning in our lives. And we all pray to be forgiven, and we reach out to our fellow earth dwellers with love and care. Take a look around this gallery of faces and just smile. It's catching, and I challenge you to smile once an hour today, just because. Please feel free to stay afterwards. We will have a chance to meet with each other. Our question of the day, if you choose to think about it, is, where do you see impermanence in your life? We hope we've offered a few ideas to help you see it in a new light. Remember too that Chime is supported by your donations. There's an easy way to make a donation on our website, www.chimeofmaine.org. Again, thanks for coming. We loved having you here, and we wish you love and kindness throughout the week.